Hey everybody, welcome back to another Ashes of Creation video. Today, I kind of just want to go over the last development live stream that we had from Intrepid Studios, the creators of Ashes of Creation. So last Friday, they had a development update and a stream where we got to take a look at a new pocket dungeon. This is called the Citadel of the 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, and we also got to see how this area reacted to sort of like dynamically changing due to the story arcs that players were completing, and it sort of transformed this area and then gave them like a sort of like a public like live event. By completing that, we actually had a 40-man open world raid boss appear in the form of a dragon. So this was the Firebrand dragon, and then we got to see the team and some Phoenix Initiative testers actually take on this boss. And that was pretty cool. I mean, that's a really cool concept, and I think they pulled it off pretty well. It was also a pretty good stream. It was nice and short and sweet. We didn't really have any moments like we've been having in past streams where there was like something negative that people could kind of latch onto. So this was kind of like nice, short and sweet, really kind of just stood on its own. In my opinion, this was like a confidence stream. It wasn't really super exciting for people watching, but this would be really exciting if you were playing. Rather than watching this like some of the other streams where it just gives you so many other like thoughts and possibilities that you kind of like get excited for, this stream more, like I said, showed confidence but was like reassuring, because if this is like their base level for Alpha 2, it's only going to get better from here, and there's so much room for improvement on our path through the Alpha 2, through the betas, up to release. If this is their Alpha 2 quality, I'm mainly talking about like the raid boss and like the mechanics and the animations and the detail of the world, the group combat, like these are like core gameplay type functions. I think we're in a really good spot, and that's really exciting. I took some notes. I watched the live stream a couple different times, and I kind of just want to talk about them. This is a little bit different than my normal videos. Usually I script something and I try to cover like a stream breakdown, but we're doing something a little bit different this month, and hopefully you'll join me because I want to talk about this stuff. Definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts as well. So first thing on my little feedback list, I actually kind of just, we're going off of the things that Steven said during the development stream of what him and the team are looking for feedback wise. One of those things was the point of interest. And I just wanted to say, like, as far as like the point of interest goes for the Citadel of the 𝙀𝙀𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘍, I really liked the foliage that you can see on kind of like the interior walls, and like the stained glass windows that just really kind of pop on the sort of cobblestone wall, like gray texture. Just like the rubble, there's like rubble on the floors, there's like broken ground where it's rubble and then like dirt. Also, another thing that I really liked was there's like these upper structures when Steven looks up at some point while they're in the Citadel. I don't know, it just gave it a good sense of scale. I was like, oh, like this structure big, which is really cool. I think it gives a good sense of scale. I want to say verticality, but I don't want to make it sound like you could go up there, because I don't think the little pocket dungeon Citadel of the 𝙀𝙀𝙋𝘼𝙉𝙉𝘍 area had any like way of traversing on an upper level. But I just want to say, like, it does give that grand scale. We know how big the world of Vera is, and to see these giant structures, like, you're going to be able to see that in the distance. It's going to be a landmark that you're like, whoa, like, let's go check that place out. So that's really cool. As far as like group combat goes, I think it's looking good. One of my questions I wonder is, with the balance that we see on stream in terms of the 8-man party, right? I wonder if this is what they're going for. Is the group that they had on stream considered well optimized? Yeah, so they have 2 clerics and a bard. And I wonder if this is how they intended it. Like, I would have liked to hear them say, this is kind of like how the recording went, and honestly, it was a little bit easier than we expected because we had an extra healer, or we had 2 healers, 2 clerics, and a bard, etc. I kind of just wonder, because otherwise it looks like it could be a little bit harder. You could look at this and be like, oh, well, I think the group combat could have been a little bit more, difficult. But it's like they also had 2 healers and a bard, like dedicated healers, 2 dedicated healers and a bard, which could drastically kind of tip the scale into, maybe they're not doing as much DPS, but I mean, no one's gonna die. So that'd be interesting. I want to hear a little bit more about that. Otherwise, it looks good. Things were looking good. We saw some new enemies. One thing that I did really like about the group combat was, I guess this isn't really group combat focused. This is just combat focused in general. I like that the enemies can crit. I don't really actually know if this is normal for other MMOs, but yeah, and maybe this is way smaller of a deal than I'm making it out to be. Like maybe it's gonna never happen and you won't even notice it, but I do think it's cool that enemies can crit. That could cause you to have to build around that. If you know that like the area you're going to is gonna have enemies that are critting more often than normal, you're gonna have to like overgear, overcompensate for that. So that's kind of interesting. So the next thing is the events. I love the idea that story arcs can cause new events to open up, can take a pocket dungeon and end up changing like dynamically the population there to fit the story arc. That's so cool. I'm really interested in seeing how this like works in game, and like how many players really need to be like working on stuff like this to progress a story arc to this point. But I really like that. I think that's super cool. And that it could like form into like pocket dungeon changes, and then now you have like a new event spawning out of the pocket dungeon, and then you complete the event, and then that spawns the raid boss as like a reactionary moment to another reactionary thing. That part of Ashes is so fantastic and is going to help the game stay alive. Dynamic content like that is going to serve the game very well for its sort of sand park classification, I guess you could say, as like a MMO. Another thing that I thought was cool was the Lady of the Rose. I really liked that she could be healed like on her own as like her own NPC. I think it was like 9 minutes or something like that. Like it was a while though. Definitely don't need to have a wave-based event like that be that long. I wouldn't want to see a time limit to it. I would like to see just the objective be like, if she dies, then the event fails. But at the same time, maybe making it a little bit less long and just making it a little bit harder. I loved that taking the relic is what caused the dragon to spawn, like completing it. One question I have about this though is, let's say you take the relic, right? How far away can other players see that like pop-up that says like a dragon has appeared? Let's see, what does it actually say? So the orb of ultimate essence acquired, and that says a dragon appears. Like what is the radius in the world that other players get notified of that event being completed, that story arc progressing to the event, or the dragon showing up? Those are questions I have that I'm super interested in, because like, let's say you're the only one there, you're the only group there. How is this going to alert everyone else in the nearby vicinity on the server or the realm? That's actually really interesting. That's a question I'm gonna post for next month's live stream. I actually don't really have anything to say about like the raid combat, but I do have stuff to say about the raid and like the dragon. As far as like the actual dragon goes, the way it comes into the world, flies in from the sky, very cool. I was almost trying to see exactly like how it spawned in, but Steven wasn't looking at it, so I'm curious to see how they're gonna do that, where like where does it come from? If you just stared at the screen and waited for it to like spawn, I wonder what that's gonna look like. Maybe it just phases in, I don't know. But that was really cool as a great entrance. I think it's really cool that it's tuned for 40 players. How many Alpha 2 tests for a game have a 40-man raid boss for you to go test and like be the end game pinnacle testing for like Alpha 2 or for its own testing? So that's really cool. I'm excited. I'm glad they're doing it, because that definitely gives us like a very high-end achievable task to look forward to and something to work towards in the Alpha 2, rather than it just being, yeah, we're just testing, you know, a couple quests, one area, you can get to level 7 and one dungeon. It's cool that we have some end game set up for the Alpha 2. As far as pinnacle like raid bosses dropping completed gear, Steven said that, you know, the intention is for it to drop completed higher tier gear. That means like weapons or armor, as well as recipes and blueprints and specific crafting materials to craft some of those completed items that dropped, as well as just more like like high rarity crafting materials in general. That's awesome. Again, always happy to hear that the hardest content in the game is going to have the best stuff. That is like 100% so important, especially with MMOs. Really, if you want your game to have anything meaningful and like that real sense of achievement, I think that's so important. Oh, here's some feedback. Something I really want to see is when the boss gets downed, I want to see, and you start seeing the loot, I would love to see some sort of cool, like stylized window that pops up that shows the loot. I want it to be like, I would love to see sort of like a loot window pop up that's like a breakdown and it shows all the drops. And then I want to see like dice rolls, little tiny dice rolls happening with people's names, or just some sort of UI indication for the rolls. I love seeing the random rolls, the little numbers, even if it's just the number. It'd be really cool to, like, if they could take, I'm so going off on a tangent on this, but if they could take something related to how it looks when you roll a die in Baldur's Gate 3, I want to see that, people rolling on like gear and stuff, like in the window. I want to see little animations for it, something like that. But I just want to see interaction between like me rolling on the gear. And it's fine if I don't get the stuff, but I want to see what other people rolled. I want to know if I was 1 point off of winning that piece of gear. I want to know so I can be like, God, I was so close. Like, I don't know. There's been moments in like WoW where I've rolled on a really crazy piece and missed it by like 1. And I'm like, that other hunter, you know, and I think that's cool. I think it's funny. And you can kind of joke with the other guy and be like, next time, bro, next time, no way, no shot, you just got that. I think that's just funny. In this case, there wasn't really any like rolling, and maybe it wasn't on, maybe it was on Mastery Loot or something, and that's why nothing popped up. I'm not really sure, but I would like to see group rolling. Speaking of the rewards, just looking at the visuals for the shield and like Steven's chest piece and stuff, it kind of has like that nice subtle glow to it. I think that looks pretty good. I would like to see more of that on very rare higher tier pieces. It says in here that they were heroic rarity, and then there was like 1 rare drop, and then I think from that point you would expect like some materials and stuff. But I love the idea that they're also going to drop like materials and things that you can cycle back into the crafting economy of like players and everything. That's awesome. Another thing I thought was interesting was how they talked about the dragon's age and maturity and color. That's really neat. So that kind of reminds me of, I mean, I don't really have an example, but maybe there's going to be like blue dragons and they're more arcane based, kind of thinking of like WoW or something. Or there's green dragons and they put you to sleep and they do nature damage and stuff. I'm excited to see the future iterations of more dragons in Ashes and how they can be like different and how different move sets and abilities. Speaking of the actual Firebrand dragon raid boss, on my first watch I was kind of also talking at the same time, like I feel like you really have to like pay attention to appreciate the work that went into this raid boss, because it looks fantastic in my opinion. The animations are smooth, they're crisp. I didn't see any weird jankiness with it. Chong is the developer that worked on the dragon, and like my understanding is like he did the rigging and the animation and like stuff like that. I could be getting that wrong, but the core team members that are responsible for making this raid boss, I just want to say fantastic. Round of applause, because it looked great. And I actually, on my second watch through of the fight, I kind of noted all of the abilities and moves that I could find. And we have like a claw, like cleave, the flying over, shooting the flames, like strafe bomber kind of attack. There's the static flamethrower where he starts and he's like, he has almost like a spell where you kind of like, you start seeing the flames casting and weaving around him, and then it pulses out. Really sick animation with that one. Oh, there's also like the sunspots, but the dragon has like sunspots that like he puts on the ground. That was cool too. We have a tail swipe, there was a regular roar, and then there was another one where he roars and it releases flame like shock waves, and then it looks like when he got to like, you know, 30%, 1/3 of his health, That's when he does like the soft enrage, and he summons all the ads. And then if you don't kill them in time, he eventually like lands back down and starts absorbing them, and then gets like stacks of like a DPS booster and enrage attack increase based on the number of ads that weren't killed. I think he only did this once or twice in the fight, but there's one moment where he looks up, kind of like shoots off a projectile, and it like explodes and like splits. It looks very rudimentary. I feel like they're gonna adjust it further, because I didn't even really see anyone get hit by it. I was looking at like the health bars in the raid, but he does this attack where he like shoots it up and it like to the battlefield. There's also the ground slam. He has like a jumping flame pounce. I think that's all of them, but yeah, that's like 13 different abilities. I mean, I genuinely felt like it was just reacting to the raid, whereas when you think of raid bosses, that a lot of the times they're just kind of anchored to the tank. Overall, I thought this was really impressive, and like I said, this wasn't, I don't know, it's very exciting in a sense of like imagining when you get to this point and when we get to test this in Alpha 2. But like, I just think this was a huge confidence like showing. They really just showed off some stuff that they've been really cooking and working on, and like it looks really polished for sure. The dragon looks great, the animations look great, all the spell effects could obviously, they'll probably get much better, but I think it was great. I think Chong did a great job, if he's the one that is mostly responsible for the Firebrand Dragon. Fantastic job. Looking forward to seeing how this evolves and where you take it going from here, because it can only get better from here. Okay, so these are kind of like miscellaneous things I wanted to like touch on. I would love to see, when you look at the ability spells at the bottom of the screen that every character has set up, I know that it's totally customizable. I would love to see Intrepid create their own aesthetic for like little end caps, something to kind of accentuate like the initial like spell and ability bar. My only example of that is like WoW's. I would have to check some other games to see what they kind of do, but like giving it some sort of, you know, stock default like UI that's at the bottom that kind of frames your abilities nicely, even if it's just the very bottom row or the first row. I think it would look really nice, and they very well may have something like this planned, but that's something I would love to see. Players could obviously turn it off if they wanted to, but yeah, just seeing like the little blocks. I always love kind of having something at the bottom. I'll show what mine looks like in WoW right now. I just recently came back to retail WoW to like try it out after like 10 years, and I've been leveling up my Shadow Priest, so this is kind of how I have it set up right now. It's a little chaotic, but I love the little like Blizzard Griffins, and this is like the newer one. The older like stylized one is even like more interesting. I think the older one has like dragons on it. I'm really liking where the nameplates are going. I think they're starting to look really clean. Elite one with like the raid boss, really cool to see like the raid boss icon, the little like 5 stars in total, the spiky UI design, the gold plating. We already knew this, but I just want to reiterate how refreshing it is to keep hearing that Ashes is going to be an M-rated game. Think about like GTA 5 or 4, 3, 2, whatever. There's so many things they can get away with like mature content and stuff in the game, and I'm just really happy to hear that Ashes is going for an M-rated maturity, so then they can really just make the stories they want to make. Like creative vision doesn't need to get like halted or, you know, put on the chopping block to make things like PG for, you know, children. This is my final feedback hit right here. The atmospheric fog and dust, and then you got the god rays coming in. It's like too much. I actually love having my effects like maxed out in MMOs. I'm one of those people that like turns everything up. I turn the spell effects all the way up for the most part. I'm gonna assume it's because they're not done with their particle effects and their engine and everything, or like how it's all gonna look in engine. In this specific area, I couldn't tell if it was like, is it smoky? Is it dusty? Is it just the god rays going way too ham on the area? Too much dust in the air? So yeah, in this case, we need to find some sort of balance here, or at least tell us, be like, hey, we're still working on it. It's gonna look a little bit more clean. That's about everything I wanted to talk about. Which of these do you guys like agree with or disagree with the most? Do you have any thoughts? What were your takeaways from this stream? Did you think it was really exciting? Did you think it was like a big confidence booster? What are your thoughts on like the project going forward? We basically have like a month and a half now from Alpha 2, so we're very much getting closer than we have been ever before to a lot of us getting in for the first time, and that's very exciting. I can't wait. Oh, this is gonna be a nightmare to edit down, make this watchable. This is almost like a mini podcast, guys. I'm kind of just like, I just wanted to sit and have a conversation, but I don't know if this is gonna make for a good YouTube video. That's pretty much it. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed, which is like 80% of all viewers for the channel. Thanks for listening to me yap. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next one. All right, peace out.